On the 4th of July weekend, exactly 72 hours before my younger sister's wedding, I stood in the hallway and watched my parents hand her a $50,000 check like it weighed nothing. That same night, I told them I was engaged. My mother didn't even look up from the envelope when she said, "She's marrying a surgeon, Ava. Her wedding needs to reflect that." I got nothing. Not a dollar, not a conversation, not even eye contact. And what happened at that reception 3 days later? No one in that room was ready for it. Before I take you there, if you've ever felt like the invisible one in your own family, the one who had to earn everything while someone else got it handed to them, take a second to like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. I read those comments more than you think. Let me take you back to the flight. Los Angeles to Chicago. 6 hours. Seat 2A. I remember the exact moment the plane leveled out over Nevada, because that's when I stopped pretending I could still cancel the trip. My name is Ava Bennett. I'm 31 years old. I work in supply chain logistics for a mid-sized manufacturing company in Irvine. Not glamorous, not impressive at dinner parties, but stable, predictable. Mine. Across the aisle, Daniel Park flipped through a worn notebook filled with sketches and cost breakdowns. He builds custom furniture. Real wood, real hands. The kind of work people call a hobby until they see the price tag. He didn't ask if I was okay right away. He waited. That's what I love about him. After about 20 minutes, he reached across the aisle and tapped my wrist lightly. "You're doing that thing again." "What thing?" "The one where you stare out the window, like you're negotiating with the past." I exhaled, looked at him, gave him a small smile. "Maybe I am." "You can still turn around," he said. "We land, we book a flight back. No one will chase you." He wasn't wrong. I hadn't been back to Illinois in 5 years. Not because of distance, because of silence. The last time I called my mother, I told her Daniel and I were moving in together. Her response wasn't congratulations. It was, "Your sister just got into med school. Try not to make everything about you." I didn't argue. I didn't hang up dramatically. I just stopped calling. No one noticed for 6 weeks. 6 full weeks before my father sent a one-line text asking if I was alive. Daniel closed his notebook. "We'll get through the weekend," he said. "Then we go home." Home. Los Angeles wasn't perfect, but it was ours. My phone buzzed in my lap. A message from my mother. First one in 12 days. "Rehearsal dinner is Friday at 7. Don't be late this time." No hello. No, I miss you. Just instructions. I locked the screen. Chicago was getting closer, whether I was ready or not. The house looked exactly the same. White siding, blue shutters, lawn cut too precisely, like it was being judged. My father's black Lexus sat in the driveway, angled just enough to suggest importance. Daniel parked the rental. "Ready?" he asked. "No. Let's go anyway." We walked in through the garage. The front door was for guests. My mother stood in the kitchen beside my sister, Lily Bennett, 26, blonde, radiant. Already glowing like the wedding had started 3 days early. They were surrounded by cake samples, white boxes, gold forks, champagne flutes half full. Lily laughed at something. My mother had her arm wrapped around her shoulders, like they were posing for a photo no one else could see. Then she noticed me. "Oh, you're here." No hug, no welcome home, just acknowledgement. "Hi, Mom." Lily waved a fork at me. "Ava, come try this one. It's almond raspberry. Ethan loves it." Ethan. The name was already everywhere. Ethan, the fiancé. Ethan, the surgeon. Ethan, who was currently on FaceTime, propped against a bowl of lemons, still in scrubs, smiling like he belonged in every room. "Sorry I can't be there," he said. "Saving lives." My father walked in from the living room, newspaper folded under his arm. He shook Daniel's hand once. Short, polite, distant. "Furniture, right?" he said. "Custom furniture," Daniel answered. My father nodded like he'd just confirmed a suspicion. That pay steady? I looked at the refrigerator while Daniel explained, covered every inch. Lily at graduation, Lily at prom, Lily in scrubs, Lily with Ethan at some hospital fundraiser. There wasn't a single photo of me, not one. On the counter sat a thick cream envelope, handwritten in my mother's script. Lily and Ethan, wedding fund. I picked up a fork, took a bite of cake. Too sweet. Saturday night, the engagement party filled the backyard. 45 guests, neighbors, colleagues, my parents' country club circle. String lights overhead, catered food. Bartender in a white shirt and black vest. 3 months of planning. For an engagement party. My mother stood at the center, holding a champagne glass. My baby girl, she said, voice soft and practiced. Marrying such an accomplished man. A surgeon. She let the word hang. Surgeon. People clapped on cue. Daniel and I stood near the edge of the patio. No one approached us. A woman asked Daniel if he worked for the catering company. He said no. She didn't ask anything else. Ethan arrived late. 30 minutes. Carried a bottle of champagne like it was a trophy. Gift from the chief of surgery, he said loudly. My father clapped him on the back. My mother beamed. Lily glowed brighter. I stood there and realized something simple and sharp. This wasn't a celebration. It was a performance. And I wasn't part of the cast. My Aunt Carol found me near the dessert table, my mom's older sister, retired accountant, zero filter. They didn't say a word about your engagement, did they? I shook my head. She exhaled through her nose. Figures. Across the yard, my mother introduced Ethan again, future son-in-law, surgeon. Then she glanced toward me. Oh, and Ava's here too. She works in logistics. Logistics. 8 years of building systems that kept companies from collapsing, reduced to one word. The party ended around 10. Guests left in clusters. The bartender packed up, lights dimmed. My mother called Lily into the living room like it was a ceremony. My father sat in his usual chair, hands folded, expression rehearsed. I was walking past the hallway when Lily screamed. Not fear, joy. She held the envelope, opened it. A check. $50,000. Oh my God, are you serious? You deserve the best, sweetheart, my mother said. It's a once-in-a-lifetime wedding, my father added. I stood in the doorway. They hadn't seen me yet. Or maybe they had. I stepped forward. I'm getting married too, I said. My voice didn't shake. Are you helping with mine? Silence. My father looked at the floor. Lily clutched the check tighter. My mother tilted her head. Ava, your sister is marrying a surgeon. Her wedding needs to reflect that. A pause. You and Daniel can do something smaller, something simple. Something simple. Daniel stepped up behind me. His hand rested on my shoulder. Warm, steady. Not about favorites, my mother added. Just appropriate. Appropriate. I nodded once. Okay, Mom. 2 words. That was it. I turned and walked out of the room. Didn't slam a door, didn't raise my voice, but something in me shut down completely. That was the moment I stopped waiting for my family to choose me. We didn't stay at the house. Daniel had booked a small boutique hotel 15 minutes away. Exposed brick, soft lighting. Quiet. When we checked in, the receptionist smiled a little differently after scanning my membership profile. Welcome back, Miss Bennett. We upgraded your room. Daniel carried the bags. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at the wall. You okay? He asked. I stopped needing their money a long time ago. I paused. It's not the money. I know. It's the way she said appropriate, like our life is less. He sat beside me, didn't fix it, didn't try to explain it away, just stayed. I opened my laptop out of habit. Work emails, inventory reports. One notification popped up at the top. Quarterly bonus deposit. I closed it without opening. The number would have surprised my parents. but they would never ask, and I would never tell. I reached for my wallet and placed it on the nightstand. When I opened it, something caught the light. A matte black card. No numbers on the front, just my name, Ava Bennett. I slid the wallet closed, turned off the lamp. My mother measured success by who you married. I measured it by what you built when no one was watching. And 3 days later, at that wedding reception, that difference was about to become very public. But not in the way anyone expected. The rehearsal dinner was Friday night, 48 hours before the wedding. Private room, high-end steakhouse in downtown Naperville. The kind of place where the wine list comes in a leather binder and no one looks at the prices out loud. Ethan booked it. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. We arrived 5 minutes early. My mother was already there, standing near the entrance like she owned the place, greeting guests with controlled warmth. Lily sat at the center table, glowing again, dress soft pink, hair curled perfectly, like this was already the main event. Ethan stood beside her, one hand on her chair, the other holding a glass of red wine, like he'd practiced that exact posture. A surgeon in every detail. My father spotted us first. "You made it," he said. Same tone, same distance. Daniel shook his hand again. This time my father didn't ask what he did. He just nodded and looked past him. We took seats near the end of the long table. Not the head, not even close. I counted quickly. 22 seats total. We were seat 19 and 20. Position matters. It always has. Menus were already set. 3 courses: filet, sea bass, or truffle pasta. Ethan waved at the waiter before anyone ordered. "Let's start with 2 bottles of Napa Cab," he said. "The good one." He didn't ask, didn't check, didn't hesitate. The waiter nodded immediately. "Of course, sir." My mother smiled, like this was exactly what she expected. My father leaned back, impressed. Lily touched Ethan's arm. "You spoil everyone." He grinned. "It's what I do." I watched him carefully. Not what he said, how he said it. Confidence isn't loud, but performance is. Halfway through the appetizers, Ethan stood up, tapped his glass lightly. "Just wanted to say something before the wedding," he said. Everyone quieted instantly. He looked at Lily, then at my parents, then at the room. "I'm lucky, not just because I'm marrying Lily, but because I'm joining a family that values excellence." That word again, excellence. He continued, "In medicine, in life, you aim for the best. And Lily represents that." My mother pressed her lips together, emotional. My father nodded slowly. I took a sip of water. Daniel glanced at me. "Did you hear that?" his eyes said. I heard it, loud and clear. After the toast, dinner moved on. Steaks arrived, wine refilled, conversations split into smaller circles. Ethan stayed at the center, always the center, telling residency stories, dropping hospital names, describing surgeries in just enough detail to impress without disturbing. My mother leaned in. Every word mattered. My father laughed at things he didn't fully understand. Across the table, Aunt Carol rolled her eyes once. Just once. But I saw it. Between courses, Ethan checked his phone. Quick glances. Too quick. His thumb moved fast across the screen. Banking app. I recognized the interface. His jaw tightened for half a second. Then relaxed. Then he smiled again like nothing happened. That moment stuck with me. Like a crack in glass you only notice if the light hits it right. He slipped the phone away and raised his glass again. Another story, another laugh, another performance. He turned toward me during the main course. "So Ava, what exactly do you do again?" The table quieted just slightly. Not obvious, but enough. "Supply chain logistics," I said. He nodded slowly. "Processing, so like inventory?" "Simplified, reduced." I held his gaze. "I design systems that prevent companies from losing millions in disruptions." A pause. Then he smiled. Nice. And just like that, he turned away. Conversation over. Value assigned. Daniel squeezed my knee under the table. Our code. Let it go. I did, at least on the surface. Dessert arrived. Chocolate soufflé. Perfectly timed, perfectly plated. The kind of dinner people take photos of, but pretend not to. Then the bill came, folded discreetly in a leather folder, placed beside Ethan. He didn't open it immediately, kept talking, kept laughing, then casually reached for it, opened it halfway, closed it again. Too fast, too controlled. He pulled out a card, black, but not the kind people think, standard black Visa. He handed it over. No hesitation. The waiter took it, left. 30 seconds passed, then 1 minute, then 2. The waiter returned, leaned down, whispered something in Ethan's ear. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the reaction. Subtle, very subtle. Ethan blinked once, too slow, then smiled. Oh, that one might be locked. Try this instead. He pulled out a second card, different bank, same confidence, louder this time. Business card. Sometimes the system flags it. The waiter nodded, took it, left again. My father didn't notice. My mother didn't notice. Lily didn't notice. But I did. Daniel did too. I could feel it in the way his hand stilled on the table. 1 minute, 2, 3. The waiter came back again. This time he didn't whisper. He crouched slightly, voice lower, but not invisible. Sir, this card is also not going through. 2 tables over, someone shifted. Sound carries. Ethan laughed, a little too sharp. That's strange. Must be the system tonight. He reached for a third card, green this time, American Express. Try this one. The waiter nodded again, left. Silence stretched just a little too long. I watched Ethan, not his face, his hands. He tapped his fingers against the table once, then stopped, then adjusted his sleeve, then smiled again, always smiling. The waiter returned. This time he didn't crouch. He stood, straight, professional, but firm. Sir, we're still unable to process payment. 3 cards, 3 declines. The word hung there without being said. Declined. My father finally looked up. Everything okay? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Then he waved a hand. Yeah, just a bank issue. I'll sort it out. He stood up quickly, walked toward the entrance, phone already at his ear. I watched him disappear. My mother leaned toward Lily. Probably fraud protection. Happens all the time. Lily nodded. Of course, of course. Daniel leaned closer to me. Quiet. You saw that, right? Yes. What do you think? I didn't answer right away. I looked at the empty chair where Ethan had been sitting, at the untouched dessert, at the folded bill still sitting on the table. And then I said something I didn't fully understand yet. I think this is the first crack. 5 minutes later, Ethan came back, face composed, voice steady. All good. Bank cleared it. We're set. The waiter nodded, relief visible. But something felt off. Too fast, too smooth, too rehearsed. The dinner ended shortly after. People stood, hugged, laughed, moved toward the exit. My mother kissed Lily's cheek. Perfect night, she said. Perfect. My father clapped Ethan on the back again. Proud of you, son. Ethan smiled, always smiling. We walked out into the cool night air. Daniel opened the car door for me. I didn't get in immediately. I looked back at the restaurant, at the glass doors, at the reflection of people inside. Do you think it was really just a bank issue? Daniel asked. I shook my head slowly. No. Then what? I turned toward him, and for the first time since I arrived, I felt something shift inside me. Not hurt, not anger. Clarity. I don't know yet, but we're about to find out. Because people who build their life on appearances always forget one thing. Eventually, someone checks the numbers. I got into the car, closed the door, and as we drove away, my phone buzzed. An email notification. Subject line: confirmed for Saturday. I opened it, read it once, then again. Daniel glanced over. "What is it?" I locked my phone. "Nothing big," I said. "Just logistics." But the truth was, something had just been set in motion, and by the time the wedding started, there would be no way to stop it. The morning of the wedding started at 6:30 a.m., 48 missed notifications. None of them were from my parents. I was sitting at the small desk in our hotel room, coffee untouched, staring at a color-coded PDF on my screen. The seating chart. Final version. Sent to all family members at exactly 6:02 a.m. My mother liked control. She liked structure. She liked everything placed exactly where it belonged. I scrolled slowly. Table 1, immediate family. My parents, Lily, Ethan. Ethan's parents, maid of honor, best man. Table 2 through 6, close friends, colleagues, doctors, more doctors. Names I didn't recognize, but titles I did. MD, PhD, chief, director, important people. I kept scrolling. Table 9, Table 10, Table 11. Then I found it. Table 15, last table in the room, right beside the service doors, next to the kitchen swing panels. I zoomed in. Ava Bennett, Daniel Park, plus 5 names I had never heard in my life. One labeled simply Ethan's gym friend, another guest +1. No last names, no context, just placeholders. I leaned back in my chair, didn't say anything, didn't react, just let it settle. Daniel came out of the bathroom, tying his watch. That bad? I turned the laptop toward him. He scanned it once, then again. Table 15, he said. That's intentional. Yes. He sat down across from me. You going to say something? I shook my head. No. Why not? Because they already said everything they needed to. He studied my face for a second. You're not upset? It wasn't a question. No, that was the truth. Something had shifted after the rehearsal dinner. The check, the comment, the word appropriate, the seating chart. It all lined up now. This wasn't accidental. This was a system. And systems can be understood. My phone buzzed. A message from Lily. Don't read too much into the seating chart, Ava. We had to prioritize Ethan's connections. You get it. I stared at the message, then typed back. I get it. 3 words, no emotion, no resistance, just acknowledgement. Daniel watched me. You really do get it, don't you? I closed the laptop. Completely. For the first time in years. Yes, and I'm done arguing with it. He nodded slowly. That's new. Very. We left the hotel at 10:15. The ceremony was at noon. Venue: Oak Ridge Country Club, 30 minutes outside the city. Long driveway, stone entrance, perfect landscaping. The kind of place where everything looks expensive, but never says how much. Valet took the car. White gloves, polite smile. Inside, everything was already in motion. Staff moving quickly. Florists adjusting arrangements. Wedding planner with a headset and clipboard, directing people like an air traffic controller. My mother stood near the entrance. Champagne dress, perfect posture, perfect expression. Until she saw me. You're cutting it close, she said. No hello, no hug. Traffic. She nodded once, dismissive. Then turned to greet someone more important. Daniel leaned closer to me. You notice she never asks how you are? Yes, always noticed. Just stopped expecting it. We walked into the main hall. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere. Soft string music. It was flawless. Technically. Emotionally, hollow. I spotted Aunt Carol near the back. She waved me over immediately. Table 15, she said, before I even sat down. I smiled slightly. You saw it too. I always see everything, she said, then leaned in. They put me at table 13, one table closer. I guess I'm slightly more tolerable than you. I almost laughed. Almost. Daniel pulled out my chair, sat beside me. Guests started filling in around us. People I didn't know. Didn't need to know. One man introduced himself. Mark, college roommate of Ethan. Another couple nodded politely. CrossFit friends. They didn't ask what I did. I didn't offer. Because it didn't matter. Not here, not to them, not to my family. The ceremony began right on time. Music shifted. Guests stood. And then Lily appeared. White dress, long veil. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. The kind of beauty that makes people hold their breath. My father walked her down the aisle. His face, soft, proud, emotional. I watched him carefully. I had never seen him look at me like that, not once. Daniel reached for my hand. I let him. The vows were personal, carefully written, carefully delivered. Ethan spoke without notes, confident, measured. I promise to give you the life you deserve, he said. That line, something about it, stayed with me. Because promises are easy, numbers are harder. They kissed. Applause filled the space, music rose, everyone smiled. Everything looked like a perfect beginning. But I had already seen something different. A crack. Tiny, almost invisible, but real. The reception started an hour later. Ballroom doors opened, and the scale of it? Even I paused. At least 180 guests, maybe more. Every table set perfectly. Gold accents, floral centerpieces that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Stage, dance floor, full bar stretching across the back wall. 4 bartenders, uniformed, ready. Daniel leaned closer. This is, what, 70,000? I shook my head slightly. Closer to 90. He exhaled quietly. And your parents gave 50. Yes. So Ethan covered the rest? That's what everyone believes. We found our table. Table 15, exactly where expected. Near the kitchen doors. Close enough to hear plates clatter, far enough to be invisible. I sat down, smoothed my dress, looked around. And for the first time, I wasn't watching for approval. I was observing. My mother moved through the room like a hostess at a gala, touching arms, smiling, accepting compliments. We wanted everything to be perfect, she repeated to multiple groups. My father followed behind, nodding, agreeing, performing. At table 1, Ethan's parents sat quietly. Nice people, simple. His mother held her purse on her lap the entire time. His father looked slightly overwhelmed. They didn't match the room. That stood out to me, because everything else matched perfectly, too perfectly. The speeches began during dinner. My mother went first. 5 minutes, rehearsed, emotional. Every milestone of Lily's life, every achievement, every proud moment. She didn't say my name once, not once. Daniel leaned closer, again. I nodded. I heard it too. My father stood next, shorter speech. I'm proud of both my daughters, he said. A pause, then continued talking only about Lily. Both, but only one. The pattern was consistent, predictable, almost comforting in its accuracy. At table 13, Aunt Carol caught my eye again. She shook her head slowly. I gave her a small nod. We didn't need words. The maid of honor spoke, then the best man. Laughter, applause, everything flowed. Perfectly. But perfection is often just a well-managed illusion. Halfway through dinner, I noticed movement at the bar. Subtle, but wrong. One bartender leaned toward another, whispered something. The second one frowned, looked toward the bar manager. The manager picked up a phone, stepped aside, made a call. Short, quiet. Then returned. His expression had changed. Not panic, not yet, but alert. I watched closely. Daniel followed my gaze. What is it? Something's off. At the head table, Ethan was laughing again, telling another story, glass in hand, center of attention. But his phone sat face down beside his plate, and for some reason, he kept glancing at it. Not casually, not absent-mindedly, like he was waiting for something, or avoiding it. The music shifted, lights softened, the first dance was about to begin. Guests turned their chairs, phones lifted, everything looked beautiful again. Perfect again. But behind the bar, nothing moved. No drinks poured, no glasses lifted, just stillness. And in that stillness, I realized something. The problem hadn't started yet, but it was already there, waiting. And when it hit, it wasn't going to be quiet. Daniel leaned in one more time. Ava. I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on the bar. Yeah, I think something's about to happen. And for the first time that entire weekend, I wasn't on the outside anymore. I was right in the center of what came next. The first dance started at 7:42 p.m., exactly 42 minutes after dinner was served. Ed Sheeran, soft lighting. Every phone in the room lifted at the same time like a reflex. Lily leaned into Ethan. Perfect angle, perfect smile, perfect moment. If you froze the frame right there, it would have looked like everything my parents wanted the world to see. But I wasn't watching Lily. I was watching the bar. Still no movement. 4 bartenders standing still, hands resting on the counter, not serving, not prepping, just waiting. That's when I knew. This wasn't a delay. It was a stop. Daniel followed my gaze. They're not pouring anything, he said quietly. I nodded once. Yeah, why? I didn't answer. Because I already had a guess. And I needed one more piece to confirm it. The music swelled. Applause. The dance ended. Lily laughed. Guest clapped louder than necessary. Energy tried to reset, but it didn't fully recover. Because people had started noticing. You could feel it. The small shifts. Guests approaching the bar, pausing, waiting, then stepping back, confused. The bar manager walked out from behind the counter, phone in hand, jaw tight, eyes scanning the room. Looking for someone specific. I didn't need to guess who. He moved directly toward Ethan, intercepted him halfway between the dance floor and the head table. Positioned himself carefully. Close enough to speak privately, not far enough to be invisible. Professional mistake. I leaned back slightly in my chair, adjusted my angle, watched. The manager spoke first, low voice, controlled. Ethan's smile held for exactly 2 seconds, then shifted, subtle but real. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a card, handed it over, casual, confident, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. Must be a system glitch. The manager nodded, walked back to the bar. Guests relaxed slightly. False alarm. Daniel looked at me. You think it's just a glitch? No. Too fast, too smooth, too practiced. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3. The manager came back. This time, different posture. Straighter, more rigid, less flexible. He leaned in again. Ethan's smile didn't hold this time. It cracked, just a little, then reset. Ethan reached for his wallet again, pulled out a second card. Different bank. Try this one, he said. Still confident, but sharper, edges showing. The manager took it, walked away again. Around us, conversation slowed, not stopped, just thinned, like a room losing oxygen. I looked toward table 1. My mother hadn't noticed yet, still smiling, still talking, still performing. My father, too. Lily, still glowing, still unaware. The second card didn't take long. The manager returned faster this time. Didn't even attempt full privacy. Sir. 2 words, but heavy. Ethan's jaw tightened. He laughed, short, controlled. All right, that's weird. Try this one. Third card, green, American Express. He handed it over with more force than necessary. The manager nodded once, walked back. Daniel shifted beside me. 3 cards. Yeah, he's running out of options. Or already did. The room was quieter now, not silent, but attentive. People don't need announcements. They feel tension before they hear it. At the bar, something changed. All 4 bartenders stepped back. At the same time, uniform movement, like a signal. Service paused, completely. No drinks, no movement, just stillness. Then the manager returned. Not to the side this time, not quietly, directly, straight toward Ethan, in full view of at least 10 tables. Sir. That one word cut through everything. Clear, firm, unavoidable. This card has also been declined. There it was, out loud, not hidden, not softened. Declined. The word spread faster than sound. You could see it move, table to table, expression to expression. Ethan froze for half a second, then recovered, too quickly. That's impossible. Try it again. The manager didn't move. We've run it twice. We'll need a valid form of payment to continue service. Continue service. Translation. The bar was closed. I felt Daniel's hand tighten slightly. Here we go, he whispered. Lily turned, confused. What's happening? Ethan smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes this time. Just a delay, babe. Nothing serious. My mother heard the word delay. That was enough. She moved instantly, like she always did when control slipped. What's going on? The manager answered this time, direct, professional. Ma'am, the current balance for the bar is $14,870. We need an approved payment to continue service. $14,870. The number didn't just land. It echoed across every table, every conversation, every assumption. My father stood up slowly, face changing color. Ethan, what is this? Ethan didn't answer, because there was no answer left. Guests stopped pretending not to listen. 200 people, watching, listening, calculating. Lily's voice broke. What do you mean declined? Ethan turned to her, trying to regain control. It's just a bank issue. It's 3 cards, Ethan. 3. That word hit harder than the number. 3. My mother stepped closer, lowered her voice, but not enough. Fix it. Now. My father checked his pockets, then his jacket, then stopped. Reality catching up. We don't have that kind of cash on us. He said it quietly, but it carried, because silence amplifies everything. Ethan's parents sat frozen at their table. His mother opened her purse slowly, pulled out a debit card, hands shaking. We can help, a little. The manager shook his head. We need the full amount authorized. Lily's mascara started to run. This can't be happening. Not today. Not now. Ethan pulled out his phone. I'll call the bank. It's Saturday night, my father snapped. They're closed. That was the moment everything shifted. Not when the cards declined, not when the number was said, but when there was no solution, no backup, no safety net, just reality. Standing in the middle of a ballroom, under chandeliers, in front of 200 witnesses. My mother turned slowly, scanning, looking for control, for a fix, for someone to step in. Her eyes moved across the room, past guests, past staff, past everything, until they landed on me, table 15, the table she chose for me, the table near the kitchen, the table that said exactly where I belonged. I held her gaze, didn't look away, didn't move, just waited. Daniel didn't say anything. He didn't need to, because he already knew what I was thinking. I reached for my clutch, slowly, calmly, opened it. My fingers touched the card, matte black, cold, heavy. Not because of what it cost, but because of what it represented. Years of work, silence, distance, building something no one in that room had ever asked about. I didn't stand yet. I didn't move. I let the moment stretch, let the weight of it settle. $14,870, 3 declined cards, 200 witnesses, 1 decision. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't asking if I mattered. I already knew. The only question was what I was going to do with it. I didn't stand right away. I let the silence do its work. $14,870. That number had already changed the room. But what people didn't understand yet was that the number wasn't the real problem. It was the truth behind it. I kept my hand inside my clutch, fingers resting on the card, not gripping, not trembling, just there. Daniel leaned slightly closer. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. He said it quietly. No pressure, no direction, just certainty. That's the difference between someone who loves you and someone who measures you. Across the room, everything was unraveling in slow motion. My mother had shifted into control mode. Voice lower, faster, more precise. Richard, just handle it. Handle it with what? My father snapped back, his voice sharper than I'd ever heard. We already paid everything. Everything. That word echoed. Because now it was clear. The $50,000 check, the venue, the flowers, the performance. They hadn't just spent money. They had spent margin. And margin is what keeps people safe when things go wrong. Lily stood in the center of it all, white dress, tears cutting through makeup, looking at Ethan like she was seeing him for the first time. This isn't just a glitch, is it? Her voice was smaller now, not performative, real. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, then forced a smile. I'll fix it, just give me a minute. You said that already, she whispered. That line landed harder than anything else, because it exposed something simple. He had no plan, just repetition, delay, hope. The room felt different now. People weren't just watching, they were calculating. You could almost hear it. If he can't cover a bar tab, what else can't he cover? My father turned toward Ethan again, direct now, no performance left. How much are you carrying? Ethan froze, a second too long. That was the tell. I leaned back in my chair, watched. This wasn't chaos anymore. This was disclosure. And disclosure always comes in layers. Ethan looked around the room, at the guests, at my parents, at Lily, then down at the floor. Student loans. The words came out flat. How much? My father asked again. Silence. Then, 380,000. The number dropped like a weight, heavier than the bar tab, heavier than the check, heavier than everything. Lily stepped back, like the air had shifted. You told me it was manageable. It is. I just need time. Time? Her voice cracked. You just told me 380,000. Ethan raised his hands, trying to contain it. It's normal for doctors. Everyone has debt. Not like this, Lily said. Her voice was sharper now, more awake. You said your parents helped. All eyes turned. Ethan's parents didn't move. His mother looked down. His father stared straight ahead. That was answer enough. My mother stepped in again, trying to salvage something. Debt can be managed. That's not the issue. It is the issue, my father said. His voice had changed. No warmth left, just numbers and logic and reality. You asked me for $8,000 last month, said it was for licensing fees. Ethan flinched. I was going to pay it back. With what? Silence, again. The pattern was consistent now. Confidence, delay, exposure, collapse. Lily's voice dropped. Is that everything? That question cut deeper than any accusation, because it assumed something worse. Ethan didn't answer immediately, and that hesitation was louder than anything he could have said. There's some credit cards, too, he admitted. How much? 42,000. A sound moved through the room. Not a gasp, not quite. More like recognition. Because now the picture was forming. Not just debt, but lifestyle. Not just pressure, but performance. Lily shook her head slowly. You told me we could afford the apartment. We can, eventually. Eventually. She repeated the word like it meant nothing, because right now, it didn't. My mother stepped back. For the first time that night, she had no line, no recovery, no script. My father sat down heavily at the nearest table, no longer standing, no longer performing, just done. And in the middle of it all, the bar was still closed. The staff still waiting. The room still watching. $14,870, still unpaid. I looked at Lily, really looked at her. Not the golden child, not the favorite. Just a 26-year-old woman whose wedding was collapsing in real time. And for a brief second, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not even validation, just clarity. This was never about the check, or the seating chart, or the word appropriate. This was about truth, and truth doesn't stay hidden forever. Daniel's voice came softly beside me. Ava, yeah, you're thinking about it. I didn't deny it. No, because I was. Not out of revenge, not even out of obligation, but because I understood something no one else in that room did. This moment was going to define everything after it. For Lily, for my parents, for me. I closed my clutch, then opened it again. Slow, deliberate. The card caught the light for a second. Matte black. No numbers, just my name. Ava Bennett. I stood up, chair sliding back quietly. But in a silent room, everything is loud. Heads turned, not all at once, but enough. Daniel stood with me. Not ahead, not behind. Beside. Always beside. I walked forward, step by step. Not rushed, not hesitant, just steady. Across the same floor where I had been invisible an hour ago. Now every eye followed. Not because of who I was to them, but because of what I was about to do. I reached the bar. The manager turned immediately, relief flickering across his face. Professional again, but strained. I opened my clutch, took out the card, placed it on the counter. The sound was small, but it landed like something heavier. Put the full balance on this. My voice was calm, even, clear. No explanation, no performance. The manager looked down, then back at me. Recognition hit instantly. Yes, ma'am. He picked it up carefully, like it mattered, because it did. He walked to the terminal, swiped. The machine paused. 2 seconds. 3. 4. Green light. Approved. Just like that. $14,870. Gone. The manager turned to his team. Resume service. Everything moved again. Bottles lifted. Ice cracked. Glasses filled. The machine restarted. The illusion repaired. But not really, because now the room had something new. Context. I turned around slowly, faced the crowd. My mother was staring at me, mouth slightly open. My father hadn't moved. Lily looked at me differently. Not above, not below. Level. For the first time in our lives. Ethan stood still. Completely still. Like the ground under him had shifted in a way he couldn't recover from. I held Lily's gaze. It's your wedding, I said. The bar's open again. No smile, no edge. Just fact. I turned, walked back to table 15, sat down, picked up my glass of water, took a sip. Daniel exhaled slowly. Well, yeah, that happened. A few seconds passed. Then whispers started. Not loud, but everywhere. Who is she? That's her sister. What does she do? Did you see that card? Black card. That's not normal. At table 13, Aunt Carol pressed her hand to her chest and nodded at me once. Proud, not surprised, because she'd been watching the whole time. The room adjusted, but not fully, because something had changed permanently. Not the bar, not the wedding, the perception. My mother hadn't moved yet, still processing, still calculating, still trying to understand something she had never asked about. My father stared at the table, hands folded again, but this time, not in control. Ethan disappeared, walked quickly toward the hallway, phone already in his hand. But it didn't matter anymore, because the damage wasn't financial. It was visible. And visibility changes everything. I picked up a shrimp from the appetizer tray, took a bite. Daniel looked at me like he was trying not to laugh.
You just rewrote the entire room.
I swallowed calmly. No, I just paid a bill. But we both knew that wasn't true. Because what I really paid for was the truth. And the truth had only just started coming out. The music came back first. Not loud, not confident, just present. Like the DJ didn't know if he should commit or disappear. That's how the whole room felt. Functioning, but unsure. The bar was open again. Glasses filled, ice moving, liquor pouring. But no one drank the same way. Because now, every sip had context. $14,870, and the person who paid it. Not the groom, not the parents. Me. Table 15. I sat back in my chair, calm, steady, untouched on the surface. But I could feel it. The shift. Not in me, in them. My mother moved first. Of course she did. She always moved first when control slipped. She crossed the room quickly, not running, but faster than she would normally allow herself. Posture tight, smile gone. She stopped at our table, didn't sit, didn't greet, just stood there, arms crossed. Can we talk? Her voice was low, controlled, but strained. I set my glass down. Whatever you need to say, you can say it here. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't challenge her. I just refused to move. That alone was new. She glanced at Daniel, then at Aunt Carol, who had quietly relocated to the empty chair beside me, then at the couple across from us, pretending not to listen. Fiona. She stopped herself, corrected. Ava. This is a private conversation. It stopped being private when the bar shut down in front of 200 people. Silence. That line landed. Clean, sharp. She inhaled slowly. Where did you get that card? There it was. Not thank you, not are you okay, not even what just happened. Just the card. I held her gaze. I've had it for a while. Don't be vague with me, Ava.
I'm not being vague. I'm being accurate.
Her jaw tightened. You embarrassed us. No, I shook my head once. I ended the embarrassment. She blinked. That wasn't the response she expected. You could have handled that quietly, she said. Pass the card without making a scene. I kept my voice level. There was no scene until the bar stopped serving. Another pause. Longer this time. Because now she was out of rehearsed lines. You didn't have to do that, she said finally. That sentence revealed everything. Not gratitude, not relief. Control. You didn't have to, but I did. Why? She asked it like it didn't make sense, like my action didn't fit her model of me. I leaned back slightly. Because it was Lily's wedding day, and no one deserves that moment. That answer was the only one she couldn't argue with. She stared at me, searching, recalculating, trying to understand how the version of me she had filed away didn't match the one sitting in front of her. At the next table, someone dropped a fork. The sound cut through the silence. My mother straightened, rebuilt her posture. We'll talk about this later. I nodded once. We will. Not agreement, not submission, just acknowledgement. She turned, walked away, step controlled, but not steady. For the first time in my life, my mother didn't get the last word. Daniel exhaled beside me. That was new. Yeah. You okay? I picked up my glass again, took a slow sip. I'm fine. And I meant it. Not fine like pretending. Fine like done. Across the room, movement shifted again. Ethan reappeared. 10 minutes gone. Face different. Not polished, not confident. Something closer to exposed. Lily met him halfway. She didn't wait this time, didn't smile, didn't soften. Just asked, direct. How bad is it? Ethan glanced around. People were still pretending not to watch, which meant everyone was watching. It's manageable, he said. Same word, same tone, same mistake. Lily shook her head slowly. No, not that answer, the real one. He hesitated, again, and that hesitation was now impossible to ignore. My father stood up, moved closer, not aggressively, but firmly. This time, you answer the question. Ethan swallowed. I told you most of it. Most. My father repeated the word like he was testing it. What didn't you say? Silence. Then, there's another 15,000. Credit cards, opened recently. The room shifted again. Second layer, not just debt, hidden debt. Lily stepped back, her voice dropped. You opened new cards? I needed flexibility. Flexibility. That word broke something. Because now it wasn't just pressure, it was choice. You lied to me, she said. Ethan shook his head quickly. I didn't lie, You just didn't tell me, she cut in. Same thing. That line hit harder than anything else she'd said, because it was clean, undeniable. My mother stepped forward again, still trying to salvage something. This is something you two can work through. Her instinct was still the same: contain, minimize, move on. My father didn't agree this time. No, he said it quietly, but firmly. This is something we should have known before today. That shift was bigger than it sounded, because for the first time, he wasn't aligning with her. He was seeing the situation for what it was. Numbers, risk, reality. Ethan's shoulders dropped slightly. Not fully, but enough. He was losing ground. Not financially, socially. And that's harder to recover from. Guests started leaving, slowly, not dramatically. Pairs, small groups, excuses about early mornings, long drives. But really, they'd seen enough. The DJ lowered the music again. The dance floor thinned. The illusion was fading. Not collapsing, but dissolving. I stayed seated, watched it happen. Didn't interfere, didn't comment, because this part wasn't mine. Aunt Carol leaned closer. You didn't just pay a bill tonight, she said quietly. I didn't respond, because I knew she was right, but not in the way people thought. Across the room, Lily stood alone for a moment. Ethan had stepped away again. My parents weren't beside her. For the first time that day, she wasn't the center of anything. Just standing there, in a white dress, in a room that no longer felt like hers. She looked up, our eyes met, and in that moment, there was no hierarchy, no comparison, no competition, just recognition. Real, unfiltered, unavoidable. She started walking toward me, slowly. Not dramatic, not urgent, but intentional. Daniel shifted beside me. Here we go. Yeah. I watched her approach, not as the golden child, not as my sister who had always been chosen. Just Lily. And for the first time, I didn't feel smaller than her. I felt equal. She stopped at the table, looked at me, didn't speak right away, then finally said something I had never heard from her before, not once in 31 years. I didn't know. 4 words, simple, but heavy. I held her gaze. "I believe you." And I did, because for the first time, she wasn't performing either. She pulled out the empty chair, sat down, right there, at table 15.
And that changed everything.
But not in the way anyone in that room understood yet. Lily didn't go back to the head table. That was the first thing everyone noticed. Not immediately, not all at once, but slowly, like a ripple. Bride, missing from center, now sitting at table 15, next to me, near the kitchen doors. The same place they had quietly decided I belonged. Now she was there too. Not by accident, by choice. She sat down carefully, adjusted her dress, looked at her hands for a second before speaking again. I should have seen it. Her voice was steady, but lower than usual. No performance, no audience, just truth. I didn't answer right away, because sometimes the silence matters more. Daniel shifted slightly, not uncomfortable, just aware. This wasn't his moment. It wasn't even mine. It was hers. Across the room, my mother noticed. Of course she did. Her head turned sharply, eyes locked onto Lily, then onto me.
Then back again. Confusion first, then calculation,
Then something else, something I had never seen before. Uncertainty. My father saw it a second later. Didn't move, didn't interrupt, just watched. That alone was new. At the head table, 2 empty chairs now sat under the spotlight. Bride and sister, gone, replaced by space. And space draws attention. Whispers started again, quieter this time, more focused.
Why is she sitting there? What happened? Is everything okay?
No one said the obvious, because saying it would make it real. I picked up my glass, took a sip, then finally spoke. You didn't want to see it. Not cruel, not soft, just accurate. Lily nodded slowly. Yeah, that's true. She let out a small breath. I thought, if everything looked right, it was right. That sentence stayed in the air, because it explained more than just tonight. It explained years of choices, of silence, of alignment with what was easy instead of what was true. Daniel leaned back slightly, giving space. Always that. Lily looked at me again. You knew something was off, didn't you? I nodded once. At dinner. What gave it away? She asked it like she needed the answer. Not for me, for herself. The cards, I said simply, and the way he checked his phone. Her eyes dropped. I didn't notice that. I know. That wasn't an insult, just a fact. She swallowed, then asked something I didn't expect. Do you think he ever planned to tell me? That question wasn't about money. It was about trust. I didn't rush the answer. No, I said finally. I think he planned to manage it. Her lips pressed together. Managing it. She repeated it quietly, like she was testing how it felt. Then shook her head. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. Across the room, Ethan stood near the bar again, phone in hand, talking, pacing slightly. Not looking at anyone, not looking at her. That said everything. Lily followed my gaze, watched him, for a long moment, then said something that changed the tone completely. I don't think I know him. There it was. Not anger, not denial. Recognition. Real, clear, and irreversible. At table 1, my mother started moving toward us again, faster this time. No hesitation. Control slipping further. She reached us in seconds. Lily, what are you doing here? Her voice was controlled, but thin. Lily didn't stand, didn't turn fully, just looked up slightly. Sitting. Don't be difficult, my mother said. Your guests are looking for you. That line wasn't about Lily. It was about image. Always image. Lily exhaled slowly, then said something I never thought I would hear from her. I don't care. 4 words, simple but explosive. My mother froze, just for a second, then recovered. Of course you care. This is your wedding. Exactly, Lily said. Her voice didn't rise, but it sharpened. It's my wedding, not a performance. That line landed harder than anything else tonight, because it didn't just reject the moment, it rejected the system behind it. My mother's face changed, subtly, but completely. She wasn't used to that. Not from Lily. Never from Lily. Ava, she turned to me. This isn't helping. There it was. Blame, redirection, control attempt. I met her eyes calmly. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to, because for the first time, Lily spoke before I could. This isn't about Ava. My mother turned back to her. Then what is it about? Lily stood up slowly, carefully, dress falling into place around her. Then she said it, clear, level, unavoidable. It's about the fact that I just married someone I don't trust. Silence. Total, complete. Even the kitchen noise behind us seemed to pause. My father stood up from across the room. Didn't speak, just stood. Because that sentence changed everything. Not the wedding, not the night, the future. Ethan looked up from across the room. He had heard it too. Of course he had. You don't mean that, he said, walking toward us. But his voice wasn't confident anymore. It was thin. Lily turned to face him fully now. I do. You're just overwhelmed. He tried to step closer. She stepped back. Small movement, huge meaning. Don't do that, she said. Do what? Talk like nothing happened. It wasn't nothing, he said quickly. I just didn't want to stress you before the wedding. Before the wedding? Her voice cracked slightly now. Ethan, we are at the wedding. That line hit like a snap, because it collapsed his entire excuse. Timing was gone. Context was gone. All that was left was truth. He looked around, at the guests, at my parents, at me, at the space where control used to be. And for the first time, he didn't know what to say. Not because there weren't words, but because none of them would work anymore. My father stepped closer. Not aggressive, but final. This conversation should have happened weeks ago, not tonight. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, it should have. That was the first honest thing he said all evening, and it came too late. Lily looked at him one last time, then said something quiet, but final. I need space. Not dramatic, not emotional, just done. She turned away, sat back down, next to me, at table 15. My mother stood there, still, processing, failing to regain control. Because there was nothing left to control. Not the narrative, not the moment, not us. Daniel leaned slightly toward me. That's it, isn't it? I watched Lily. Watched the way her hands finally stopped shaking. Watched the way her breathing slowed. Watched the moment she stopped performing and started choosing. Yeah, I said quietly. That's it. Because the loudest part of that entire night wasn't the argument, wasn't the numbers, wasn't even the collapse. It was this, the silence after truth, and what people do inside it. And for the first time, my family didn't know what to do next. The room didn't recover, not really. Music played, lights stayed warm, drinks kept flowing, but something fundamental had shifted. You can't unsee truth once it's been said out loud. And Lily had said it. I just married someone I don't trust. That sentence didn't disappear. It settled, in the walls, in the air, in every conversation that tried to move past it. At table 15, we didn't talk for a while. Not because there was nothing to say, because there was too much. Lily sat beside me, hands folded in her lap. Still, focused, different. Not the version of her my mother raised, not the version the room expected. Something quieter, more dangerous. The kind of calm that comes after a decision. Daniel leaned back in his chair,
watching everything like he always did. Not involved, but aware. Across the room, Ethan had stopped moving. No pacing, no phone calls. He stood near the bar, staring at nothing in particular. A man who had just run out of explanations. My mother hadn't returned to the head table. She stood near the entrance now, talking to no one. Thinking. Rebuilding. Trying to find a version of this night she could still control. My father sat at table 8, alone. Head slightly lowered. Not hiding, just processing. I looked at Lily, then asked something simple. "What do you want to do?" She didn't answer immediately. She watched Ethan, long, careful. Then said quietly, "Not what Mom wants, not what people expect. What you want." She exhaled slowly. "I don't know yet." That was honest, and honesty was new for her. "Good," I said, "because you shouldn't decide tonight." She glanced at me. "Why not?" "Because tonight, everything is loud. Pressure, emotion, embarrassment." I paused. "You need to decide when it's quiet." That stayed with her. I could see it. She nodded slowly. "Okay." A few seconds passed. Then she asked something that surprised me. "Did you plan any of this?" Direct. Clear. I met her eyes. No. Not the collapse, not the debt, not him. "Then what did you plan?" I held her gaze for a moment, then answered, being ready. That was the truth. I didn't plan to expose anything. I planned to not be caught off guard. There's a difference. Lily studied me, then nodded again. "You always do that." "Do what?" "Prepare." I shrugged slightly. "When no one else does, you learn to." That line sat between us. Not heavy, just understood. Across the room, movement shifted again. Ethan started walking toward us. Slower this time. No confidence left. No performance. Just approach. Daniel noticed first. "Here he comes." Lily didn't turn immediately. She waited until Ethan was close enough to matter. Then looked up. Ethan stopped a few feet away. Not too close, not too far. "Can we talk?" he asked. Lily's expression didn't change. "We are talking. Not here." His voice dropped slightly. "Private." Lily glanced around, then back at him. "You mean somewhere people can't hear you?" He winced. "Just a little." That was enough. "I need to explain things properly," he said. "You had time," Lily replied. "You chose not to." That line closed a door. Not loudly, but firmly. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration showing now. "You're making this bigger than it is." "No," Lily shook her head. "I'm seeing it for what it is. That difference mattered." He stepped closer, lowered his voice again. "I love you." There it was, the fallback, the emotional anchor. But timing matters. And he was too late. Lily didn't soften, didn't lean in, didn't respond the way she would have yesterday. "I know." She said it simply. And that was worse, because it didn't fix anything. It didn't erase anything. It just existed. Ethan blinked, like he expected more. Like love was supposed to solve it. It didn't. Not this. Not now. Daniel shifted beside me slightly, still silent, still present. I stayed quiet too. This wasn't mine. Lily looked at Ethan carefully, then asked something very precise. "Did you ever plan to tell me the full number?" Ethan hesitated. Again. That hesitation was consistent. Pattern, signal, answer. "Eventually," he said. "Eventually." She nodded slowly. There it is. 3 words. Flat, clear, final. Because now it was undeniable. He didn't lie in the way people expect. He delayed. He minimized. He controlled the information until it controlled him. Lily stood up again. Not dramatic, not emotional.
Just done for now. I'm not having this conversation tonight.
Ethan stepped forward instinctively, then stopped himself, because even he understood that boundary. Then when? He asked. Tomorrow. Her voice didn't shake. Not next week, not later. Tomorrow. In daylight. Without 200 people watching. That line changed the structure of everything, because now there was a plan, not a resolution, a process. Ethan nodded slowly. Okay. That was the second honest thing he'd said tonight. Lily turned away from him, sat back down, next to me again. Ethan didn't follow. He stood there for a second longer, then turned, walked away, slower than before. He wasn't running anymore. He was carrying it. Daniel leaned in slightly. That was clean. Yeah, very. Lily looked down at her hands again, then said something softer. I feel stupid. I shook my head. No. You trusted someone. That's not stupid. She let out a small breath. Feels like it. That feeling will pass. The lesson won't. She glanced at me. You've learned that already, haven't you? I smiled slightly. Yeah, I have. Across the room, my mother was watching again. Not moving, not interrupting, just observing, trying to understand something she never had to before. Loss of control. My father hadn't moved either, but his posture had changed. Less rigid, more aware. Guests kept leaving, the room slowly emptying, the performance ending without a finale, just fading. I leaned back in my chair, looked around the room, at the flowers, the lights, the tables, the cost, the effort, the image. And then I looked at Lily, sitting beside me, quiet, present, real. And I realized something simple. This night was never about exposing Ethan. It was about revealing everything else. The hierarchy, the assumptions, the roles, the way love had been measured, and for the first time, those things were visible. Not hidden behind decorations, not softened by speeches, just there. Lily turned to me one more time. Thank you. I didn't answer right away because I wanted to be precise. Not for the money, she added quickly. For staying. That mattered more. I nodded once. Always. And I meant it. Not as the overlooked sister, not as the one at table 15, but as someone who no longer needed to be chosen, to show up. The music faded again. The lights dimmed slightly, and somewhere between the last guests leaving and the staff starting to clear tables, something else settled into place. Not closure, not yet, but direction. And tomorrow was going to matter more than tonight ever could. The morning after the wedding was quieter than it should have been. No celebration, no post-wedding brunch energy, no laughter carrying through the house. Just silence. At 9:10 a.m., my phone buzzed. One message from Lily. Can you come over? Just you. No emojis, no extra words, just direct. I stared at it for a second, then replied, On my way. Daniel looked up from the kitchenette. Everything okay? I slipped my phone into my bag. It's time. He nodded slowly. You want me there? I shook my head. Not this one. He didn't argue. Of course he didn't. Call me if you need anything. Always. That word again. Always. I left the hotel at 9:25. The drive back to my parents' house felt different. Same roads, same turns, but the weight had shifted. Yesterday, I arrived as the invisible daughter. Today, I didn't know what I was, but it wasn't that. The house looked the same. Perfect lawn, perfect paint, perfect image. But something underneath it had cracked. I could feel it before I even got out of the car. The front door was unlocked. That alone was unusual. My mother never left doors unlocked. Control. Always control. I stepped inside. The house was quiet.
Too quiet. Lily sat at the kitchen table, no makeup, hair pulled back loosely, still in yesterday's hoodie. The wedding dress was gone. So was the performance. She looked up when I walked in. Hey, hey. I set my bag down, took the chair across from her. For a few seconds, we didn't speak, because neither of us needed to pretend anymore. He told me everything, she said finally. Her voice was steady, too steady. That's never a good sign. Everything? I asked. She nodded once, then reached for a folder on the table. Manila. Thick. Organized. That alone told me something. She slid it toward me. I opened it slowly. Bank statements, credit reports, loan summaries, printed emails. Not screenshots. Printed. Deliberate. Real. $380,000 in student loans. $42,000 in credit cards. $15,000 in new accounts opened within 6 months. But that wasn't the part that made me pause. I turned one page, then another, then stopped. There it is, Lily said quietly. I looked up at her. You saw it? Yeah. I looked back down. Line item, repeated. Multiple transactions. Same pattern. Cash advances. High interest. Short intervals. I felt something click into place. This isn't just debt. No, she said. It's something else. I closed the folder slowly, looked at her. How long? At least a year, maybe longer. That timeline mattered, because it overlapped with everything. The engagement, the planning, the promises. You didn't know any of this? I asked. She shook her head. Nothing, not even close. That wasn't denial, that was truth, and truth has a weight you can feel. I leaned back in my chair, processed, then asked the question that mattered most. What do you want to do? She didn't answer immediately. She stared at the table, then at her hands, then back at me. I already called a lawyer. That surprised me. Fast, decisive, good, and? Appointment tomorrow morning. She paused, then added, annulment is still possible. There it was, not emotional, not reactive, strategic. That was new for her. And I recognized it immediately. That's why you called me, I said, not a question. She nodded. I need you to tell me if I'm overreacting. I didn't answer right away, because this mattered, not just for her, for everything that came after. No, I said finally, you're not overreacting. You're finally reacting to the right thing. She exhaled slowly. Relief. Not because of my answer, because of the clarity. My mother's voice cut in from the doorway. You're both making this bigger than it needs to be. Of course, she had been listening. Of course she had. Lily didn't turn, didn't flinch, didn't soften. Mom, not now. Now is exactly when we talk about this, my mother said, stepping into the kitchen. Still composed, still controlled, still trying to steer something that was already off course. Marriage isn't easy. People have financial issues. You work through them. That was her framework. Always had been. Endure, maintain, preserve the image. Lily finally turned, but not the way she used to. Not seeking approval, setting a boundary. He didn't tell me, Mom. My mother waved that away slightly. People don't always share everything right away. That sentence was the problem, because it normalized dishonesty. I leaned forward slightly. There's a difference between not sharing everything and hiding $400,000 in debt. My mother's eyes snapped to me. Don't exaggerate. I didn't. I kept my voice calm. I rounded down. Silence. That landed. My father appeared in the doorway behind her. Didn't interrupt, didn't speak. Just listened. Again, that was new. Lily turned back to my mother. This isn't about the money. Yes, it is, my mother said immediately. No, Lily's voice sharpened. It's about trust. That word again. Trust. You don't walk away from a marriage over trust issues, my mother said. You build it. Lily stood up slowly, then said something that ended that argument completely. You can't build something on something that doesn't exist. Silence. Clean. Final. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it, because there was no counter to that. My father stepped forward slightly, just one step, then said quietly, "Let her finish." That sentence shifted everything, because now he wasn't neutral. He was supporting her space. My mother looked at him, surprised, hurt, then stepped back. Not defeated, but paused. Lily looked at me again, then at the folder, then back at me. If I walk away now. She hesitated, for the first time since I arrived, then finished the thought. Do you think I'll regret it? That question was the real one. Not legal, not financial, emotional, long-term. I took a breath, then answered honestly. You'll regret it more if you stay and keep finding new things you weren't told. That was the truth. Simple, uncomfortable, necessary. She held my gaze, then nodded slowly. Okay. Across the room, my father exhaled quietly, like something had settled for him too. My mother said nothing. For once, nothing. Lily picked up the folder again, closed it carefully, then said something that marked the shift completely. I'm not doing damage control anymore. I'm making decisions. That was it. That was the line, the turning point. Not loud, not dramatic, but irreversible. I stood up. So did she. We didn't hug immediately. We just stood there, facing each other, equal, finally. Then she stepped forward, wrapped her arms around me, tight, not for show, not for anyone else, just real. I hugged her back, and in that moment, I realized something. The wedding didn't break her, it woke her up. And what came next was going to change more than just her marriage. It was going to change the entire structure of our family. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it yet, because I already knew. This wasn't the end of the story. This was the beginning of the part where everything gets exposed properly. Monday morning, 10 a.m., Cook County Family Court, 3 days after the wedding. I sat in the second row, hands folded in my lap, watching my sister stand in front of a judge and ask for her marriage to be undone before it had even begun. That's how fast everything moved once the truth was written down. Because once it's documented, it stops being a story. It becomes evidence. If you've ever had to sit in a room where everything finally comes out in the open, where there's no performance left, just facts, tell me in the comments, did it feel like relief or did it feel like loss? Because sitting there that morning, it felt like both. Lily stood at the front beside her attorney, calm, composed, no makeup, no wedding glow, just clarity. Ethan stood across from her, different man, same face, but stripped of everything he used to hide behind. No confidence, no control, no audience to impress, just consequences. The courtroom was small, maybe 20 seats, neutral walls, fluorescent lights, nothing decorative, nothing forgiving, just a space designed for truth. The judge adjusted her glasses, looked down at the file, then up at both of them. Ms. Bennett, you're requesting an annulment on the basis of financial misrepresentation prior to marriage. Is that correct? Lily didn't hesitate. Yes, Your Honor. Clear, direct, no emotion. That mattered, because emotion can be dismissed. Facts cannot. The judge turned slightly. Mr. Collins, do you dispute this claim? Ethan swallowed, then said the only thing he could say. No. Not denial, not deflection. Agreement. That was stage 1 gone. No more pretending nothing happened. I felt Daniel's hand lightly press against my back from where he sat behind me. He had insisted on coming today. Quiet support, nothing more. I was glad he did, because what came next was heavier. Lily's attorney stepped forward. We've submitted financial documents showing undisclosed liabilities totaling approximately $437,000, including student loans, revolving credit, and recent lines of credit opened within 6 months prior to the marriage. Numbers: specific, precise, documented. This was stage 2. Evidence. Not guesses, not assumptions. Proof. The judge flipped through the pages slowly, deliberately, then looked at Ethan again. Were these debts disclosed to Ms. Bennett prior to the marriage? Ethan's voice was quieter now. No, Your Honor. Why not? A pause, long enough to matter. I thought I could manage it. There it was again. Manage. The same word from the wedding, now in a courtroom. And it sounded even smaller here. The judge didn't react emotionally. She just wrote something down. Then said something that changed the entire tone. Failure to disclose significant financial liabilities prior to marriage constitutes material misrepresentation. Material. That word carried weight. Legal weight. This wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about violation. Lily stood still, didn't look at Ethan, didn't look at my parents, just forward, focused. The judge continued. Given the documentation provided and the respondent's acknowledgement, this court finds sufficient grounds to grant the annulment. Just like that, 4 days of marriage, legally erased. Not a divorce, not a separation. An undo, like it never existed. But we all knew it did. Because consequences don't disappear just because the paperwork changes. The gavel didn't slam, no dramatic sound, just a quiet conclusion. This matter is resolved. And that was it. No applause, no closure music, just done. Outside the courtroom, the hallway felt too bright, too normal. People walked past like nothing had happened. Because for them, nothing had. For us, everything had. Lily stepped out first, took a breath, long, steady, then leaned against the wall. It's done, she said. I nodded once. Yeah. She didn't cry, not even a little. Because this wasn't grief. This was clarity. Ethan came out a few seconds later, stopped a few feet away, didn't step closer, didn't try to fix anything, because there was nothing left to fix. He looked at Lily, then at me, then at the floor. I'm sorry. 3 words. Late, but real. Lily didn't respond immediately, then said something simple. I believe you. And again, that made it worse, because belief didn't change the outcome. It just acknowledged the truth. Ethan nodded once, then turned, walked away. No drama, no scene, just exit. That was stage 3. Collapse. Complete. No denial, no blame, no victim act. Just acceptance. And that's when you know it's over. My mother stood at the end of the hallway, arms crossed, not crying, not angry, just unsettled. This isn't how it was supposed to go, she said. That sentence told me everything. Not concern for Lily, not relief. Expectation. Broken. Lily walked toward her slowly, then stopped just short. No, she said calmly. It's exactly how it was supposed to go. My mother blinked, didn't understand, because she still thought outcomes were supposed to match appearances. They aren't. Not when truth shows up. My father stood beside her, quiet, watching, then said something that surprised all of us. We should have asked more questions. Simple, honest, late, but real. My mother looked at him, then at Lily, then at me. For once, she didn't have an answer. No correction, no spin, just silence. Lily turned to me. What now? I smiled slightly. Now, you build something real. Not fast, not loud, but solid. She nodded. That word again. Solid. We walked out of the courthouse together. No photographers, no attention. Just 3 people leaving a building where something had ended and something else had finally started.
As we reached the parking lot, my phone buzzed again. This time, I checked it. Email. Subject line. Promotion Committee Decision. I opened it, read the first sentence, then the second, then closed it. Daniel looked at me. Good news? I slipped my phone back into my bag. Yeah, very. But for once, it wasn't the most important thing happening. Because for the first time in my life, my family wasn't built on image anymore. It was built on truth. And truth is a much harder foundation to ignore, but also a much stronger one to stand on. 2 weeks later, Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m., my mother hosted a lunch. Not a celebration, not exactly an apology, something in between. At least 30 people were invited. Neighbors, close family friends, a few relatives who had definitely heard about the wedding and definitely wanted to see what happened next. Because in our town, news doesn't travel fast, it travels thoroughly. The dining room was set perfectly. Of course it was. White tablecloth, polished silver, floral centerpiece, everything in its place. Everything controlled. Or at least, trying to be. Daniel and I arrived together, this time through the front door, not the side. That was new. My mother greeted us at the entrance. She hesitated for half a second before speaking. Then, "Hi, Ava." No correction, no reduction. My name, fully said. That alone told me she was trying. "Hi, Mom." She nodded, then turned to Daniel. "Daniel, I'm glad you came." Her tone was measured, careful, respectful, also new. Daniel smiled slightly. "Thanks for having us." No tension, no edge, just calm. We stepped inside. The room shifted slightly when we entered. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Conversations paused, eyes glanced, people recalibrating. Because now, they knew who I was. Not from introductions, from that night. From the story that had already spread further than my mother could contain. A woman near the window leaned toward her friend. "That's her." I heard it. I didn't react, didn't need to, because this time, I wasn't being introduced as an afterthought. I was being recognized. There's a difference. Lily stood near the table. No ring, no performance, simple dress, hair down, calm. When she saw me, she smiled. Not big, not forced, just real. "Hey." "Hey." We hugged briefly, easy, natural, no history weighing it down. That might have been the biggest change of all. Across the room, my father stood with two neighbors. He noticed me, then did something small, but significant. He excused himself mid-conversation, walked over. "Ava." His voice was steady. I smiled slightly. "Hi, Dad." He looked at me for a second, then said something that would have felt impossible a month ago. "I told them about your work." I blinked once, just once. "What did you say?" "That you lead operations for a national distribution system. That your decisions affect millions in revenue." He paused. "That you're very good at what you do." That landed deeper than anything he'd said at the wedding, because it wasn't public. It wasn't for show. It was recognition. "Thank you," I said quietly. He nodded, didn't make it bigger, didn't overcorrect, just acknowledged. And that was enough. We took our seats. No seating chart this time, no hierarchy. Just chairs, just people. My mother stood at the head of the table, not with a script, not with a speech prepared. You could tell, because she hesitated. For the first time, she didn't know exactly what to say. Then she started anyway. "Thank you all for coming." Simple, direct, honest. She looked at Lily, then at me, then at the room. "The past couple of weeks haven't gone the way we expected." That was the understatement of the year. A few people shifted in their seats, uncomfortable, curious, listening. My mother continued, "But sometimes things don't go the way you plan." because you didn't ask the right questions to begin with. That was new. Accountability. Partial, but real. She took a breath, then said something that changed everything. I should have asked more questions, not about Ethan, about what really matters. Her eyes moved to me, and about my daughters. Plural. Not one, not implied. Clear. Both. That word mattered, because it had been missing for a long time. Lily looked at her, didn't react immediately, just listened. My mother continued. I thought I was protecting the future, but I was really protecting an image. There it was, finally said out loud, the thing underneath everything. Image. She lowered her voice slightly, and I hurt people I should have been supporting. Her eyes stayed on me this time, not Lily, me. That mattered too, because for once, I wasn't an afterthought. I was part of the center. I didn't speak, didn't interrupt, because this wasn't my moment. This was hers, and she was finally saying something real. The room stayed quiet, no polite applause, no quick recovery, just listening. Then something unexpected happened. A woman from across the table spoke, soft but clear. That must have been hard to admit. My mother nodded once. It was. Then added, but not as hard as realizing I almost lost something more important by not admitting it sooner. She didn't look at me again. She didn't need to. The message had already landed. Across the table, Lily reached for a glass of water, then set it down again, then finally spoke. We're okay. She said it calmly. Not perfect, not fixed, just okay. My mother exhaled. You could see it, the release. Small, but real. My father cleared his throat slightly, then added something of his own. We spent a long time measuring the wrong things. Money, titles, appearances. He shook his head once. Turns out, those don't hold up very well when things actually matter. That line stuck, because it wasn't defensive, it wasn't corrective, it was reflective. And reflection means change is possible. Lunch continued, food passed, conversations resumed, but different now, lighter, more honest, less performative. People asked me what I did, actually asked, and this time, they listened to the answer. Not because of the card, but because the story had shifted. Daniel fit in easily, always had, just never given the space before. Now he was, because the structure that excluded him was gone. At one point, Aunt Carol raised her glass slightly, didn't stand, didn't make a speech, just said one sentence. Took long enough. A few people laughed, including me, because she wasn't wrong. Nothing about this was fast. It took years. It just looked sudden at the end. After lunch, people started leaving. No rush, no escape, just natural, normal, as it should have been from the beginning. I stepped outside onto the back patio. Fresh air, quiet. For a moment, it felt like nothing had ever been wrong here, like the house had always been this calm. But I knew better. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's what's left after truth has done its work. My mother stepped outside a minute later, stopped beside me, didn't speak right away, then said something simple. I'm trying. I nodded. I can see that. She looked at me, really looked this time, not evaluating, not comparing, just seeing. That was new. We stood there in silence for a moment. Then she asked quietly, Are we going to be okay? That question wasn't about today. It was about everything. I answered honestly, We're going to be real, and that's better than okay. She nodded slowly, like she understood, or at least was starting to. Inside the house, I could hear Lily laughing. Not forced, not polite. Real. And that sound was worth more than any wedding my parents could have paid for. Because this time,
It wasn't for show. It was hers. And finally, so was her life. 3 months later, Thursday morning, 7:15 a.m., Seattle. Rain against the windows, soft, steady, familiar. I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot, coffee in one hand, reading an email I had already opened 3 times. Vice President of Operations. Offer confirmed. Base salary. Equity. Bonus structure. Numbers my parents would have once used to define success. Now, just details. I closed the email, set my phone down, took a sip of coffee, and let the moment sit. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just earned. Daniel stood at the counter, sanding a small piece of walnut for a custom order. He glanced up. "You've read that 5 times. 4, I said. He smiled. And? I leaned against the counter. I'm going to accept. He nodded once. Of course you are. No big reaction, no applause, just certainty. That's what I love about him. Nothing I achieve surprises him, because he's been there the whole time. I picked up my phone again, opened my messages. 2 unread texts. One from my father. Proud of you. Call me when you can. Another from Lily. Guess who just signed her own lease? I smiled. 2 very different sentences, same meaning. Movement. Forward. I replied to both, then set my phone down. Because for once, I didn't feel the need to explain anything to anyone. Later that afternoon, I took a walk down to the waterfront. Gray sky, cold air. Ferries moving slowly across the water. The kind of quiet that lets you hear your own thoughts clearly. I leaned against the railing, watched the water move, and thought about everything that had changed. Not just the wedding, not just the courtroom, not even the lunch. The structure. That's what changed. For 31 years, my place in my family had been defined by comparison. Lily, her achievements, her image, her alignment with what my parents understood. And me, independent, distant, difficult to categorize, easy to overlook. That dynamic felt permanent until it wasn't. Until one moment forced everything into the open. Not because I planned it, not because I needed revenge, but because truth doesn't stay hidden when pressure builds long enough. And when it comes out, it doesn't just reveal one person. It reveals everyone. My mother, who built her world on appearances. My father, who stayed quiet until quiet wasn't possible anymore. Lily, who chose comfort until she chose clarity. And me, the one who stopped asking to be seen and built something visible instead. The black card wasn't the point. It never was. It didn't change who I was. It revealed it. That night, I didn't become important. I just became undeniable. And there's a difference. My phone buzzed again. A call this time. Lily. I answered. Hey. Hey. Her voice was lighter now. Not perfect, not untouched, but steady. You busy? Just walking. Good. I wanted to tell you something. I leaned against the railing. Go ahead. I signed the lease today. She repeated it like she still didn't fully believe it. 1 bedroom, small, but it's mine. That word again, mine. I smiled. I'm proud of you. She exhaled softly. I keep expecting to feel scared. Do you? Not really. That's how you know it's right. A pause. Then she asked something quietly. Do you ever wish it happened differently? That question deserved a real answer. I looked out at the water, at the gray horizon, at everything that had shifted. No, I said finally, because if it happened differently, you might not have seen it, and if you didn't see it, you might still be living inside it. Silence, then a soft laugh. Yeah, that's true. We talked a few minutes longer. Nothing heavy, nothing dramatic, just normal. And that alone felt like progress. After the call, I stayed there a while, watching the water, thinking. Not about what I lost, about what I stopped chasing. Approval, recognition, validation from people who weren't ready to give it. I didn't need it anymore because I had something better. Clarity, boundaries, peace. And those things don't come from being chosen. They come from choosing yourself. That's the part no one tells you, the part that takes the longest to learn. You don't win by proving your worth to people who underestimate you. You win by building a life that doesn't require their approval at all. That's the real shift. That's the real ending. Not dramatic, not loud, just solid. I headed back home as the rain picked up slightly. Streetlights flickering on, city settling into evening. Daniel was already inside when I walked in. Music playing softly, dinner halfway done. He looked up. "You look different." "How?" "Lighter." I smiled. "I feel lighter." He nodded. "That tracks." I stepped closer, rested my head briefly against his shoulder. No words, just presence. That was enough. Later that night, I sat at the small desk by the window, laptop open, offer letter still there, waiting. I clicked accept. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just done. Because I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for my parents, not for timing, not for permission. Just moving forward. Before I close this, I want to ask you something. If you were in my position, would you have paid the bar tab that night? Or would you have let everything collapse? I read every comment, because every story like this starts somewhere real. If this one felt familiar, you're not alone. There are more stories like this, and some of them might hit even closer. If you're ready for that, you know what to do. I'll see you in the next one.